What problems are troubling you? What's frustrating you, bothering you, worrying you? Want solutions? Want answers? Welcome to Here We Come to Save the Day, hosted by David Adelson. This podcast is dedicated to solving everyday and global problems in an uplifting, fun, enjoyable way. There is a solution to whatever's troubling you. Ask your questions and we'll do our best to give you practical, useful, workable solutions you can use starting today. Join us now with David's special guest experts who will share their own experiences, life lessons, and practical strategies for creating the life you long for. Start living your best life today, right now, with David Adelson and friends.
Welcome to another fun episode of Here We Come to Save the Day. My guest today is a dear friend, Bethany Perry. She's going to show you several solutions to help you enjoy yourself more and enjoy your life more. Bethany, why don't you tell us, you sent me a list of 3 things you were going to tell us. Just tell people what they can expect before the end of the show.
Okay, so step number 1, we'll be learning some gentle steps to eliminate those negative the negative self-talk that we hear about, but we really don't know what to do. And we'll be learning how to list the lies and eliminate lies from our lives, and also how to move from a state of fear to a place of love.
So very good. So thank you for being here today. It's a great pleasure to spend time with you always. So this is very exciting.
Thank you.
So you have all kinds of letters after your name. I don't know what any of them mean, but so you know what? They're in the show notes. I'm not going to read them all. Oh, should I? What are they? What is CAN? Does that mean you're from Canada or?
Well, I did get that. I did study in Canada. It's the Center for Applied Neuroscience.
Oh, okay. And what is the AAE?
Amen Affiliated Educational Center. So I'm affiliated with Dr. Daniel Amen.
Okay. And then you have an IAHC?
International Association of Health Coaches. So I am a life and health and brain coach.
Okay. And then what's the ERT?
Because I'm a yoga teacher. Experienced registered yoga teacher.
Cool. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I don't know. Probably a lot, but no, that's good.
Okay. So Bethany is an emerging thought leader on combining the power of neuroscience and intuition. Very heady stuff. She transforms the lives of women and men, doesn't discriminate, who are challenged with emotional and physical traumas, dedicating over 30 years of her life's work to helping people heal and grow by creating a non-judgmental space where each individual can discover freedom from the past to live the life they desire. And that's fabulous, because one of the big things that people do so often is, instead of enjoying the current moment, they're busy making sure that they're carrying the weight of everything from the past, particularly the mistakes and the guilt and the remorse and the regret, on their shoulders. So they're often, instead of noticing what's in front of them, they're busy checking to make sure, I haven't forgotten that I made this mistake in the past, right? I've got that on my shoulder too. So let's start with I want to talk about the Peace and Harmony Company, which sponsors this program. And what we do at the Peace and Harmony Company is we create quantum-infused and unified field-infused programs, techniques, processes, CDs, DVDs, downloadable MP3s or video programs, drops that you can take, all kinds of different healing modalities that are all designed to be completely effortless, take almost no time at all, because we're all busy and we all have so much to do that we don't need to add one more thing. But all of these are designed to, at the quantum and unified field level, to transform your life into the best possible way. And we'll talk more about that as we go, but check out peaceandharmonyco.com. It'll be worth your while. So I want to get that out. let's talk about eliminating negative thoughts and self-talk. One, I want to bring this up, and then I'm going to let you talk.
You're good.
Okay. When I first started creating these quantum and unified field programs, one of the ones that came down, again, a lot of this is through guidance, intuition, my own connections with everything, and understanding the process of how creation emerges from the unified field. Several steps more happen, and then eventually you get to the quantum field, and then eventually a lot more stuff happens, and then it's like from the bottom of the ocean, more and more and more stuff until you get to the world. And one of the things that came up was a piece of art that you just look at, and it's Thoughts That Matter. And it's a very, one might say, abstract piece of art, but what it is it uses color and white space to shift in the awareness what thoughts are important. And this is something that's there, and it's, I don't know what it is, it's under $100, but there are many programs like that we have. But you have a technique that might work for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to point out that one of the goals of this show is to give people a lot of different ways to solve the same problem, because the same thing doesn't work for all of us.
Correct.
And this is a very cool I'm going to let you talk for a minute, but I have some other ideas that we're going to come back to. So let's see the angle of the solution that you have, because we've all been taught to hate ourselves, and
Yes,
we've all been taught, what's wrong with,
and we're really good
fix
at
it
it.
for us. Fix it for us.
Okay, well, we'll see. So you're going to fix it for yourself, but this is a really simple technique, and it can, well, I'll tell you what happens in the brain. So first, I'm going to start from a science perspective. So anybody out there who is a little, I always say I have one foot in science world and the other foot in the whole woo-woo intuitive world. And I love the blend of them because truly they are the same. But when we have negative thoughts, it's in our left brain. And as you start to hear me now, you're going to recognize that our left brain never stops talking. It's always saying something. It will argue with itself. It will lie to itself. It will tell you all kinds of things that are not true. And what happens, because our oneness wants to be congruent. So our conscious mind and our unconscious mind wants congruency. In time, if we say something negative to ourselves over and over, we begin to believe it, so that there is a congruency within us. So what we want to do is, we first and foremost, we want to listen to the negative things we say to ourselves. Pick the top 5, pick the top 10, and write them down. And when we write them down, we begin, every single time that we hear them, we take some time to say, okay, here's the 4 questions you're going to ask yourself. Number 1, is it true? It may or may not be. Is it really true? May or may not be. Who would I be without that thought? And how can I reframe it? And once we reframe it, and I can give you an example if you like, once we reframe the thought, most of my clients, everybody I work with, I have them write it down and have it in their phone, have it on pieces of paper all over, because when that thought comes up, it's a pattern in the brain. It's a connection that we want to like let the grass grow. We don't want that pattern anymore. And to do that, we'll forget, even though we spend a lot of time working on the new reframe that comes from our heart and our soul. It's the truth. And when we tell ourselves, we might need to check it out and go, okay, what do I need to say to myself? And then we say that to ourselves. And in time, that rut that we've created in our brain, a new connection will be made, and then we'll be released of that particular negative thought. Now more come, but that's okay. We know what to do now.
You said there were 4 steps.
Yep. Is it true? So as an example, I work with a lot of people who have serious anxiety. And is it true? Yeah, I have, they own it. It's like it becomes theirs. So first thing is like, don't make it yours. Is it true? Do you have anxiety? Maybe yes, maybe no. Do you really have anxiety? Maybe yes, maybe no. Who would you be without that thought? So who would the person become if they didn't think that they had anxiety? And then how to reframe it is perhaps, no, so to say I have anxiety, I don't have anxiety, it's usually like two ships passing. The right? It doesn't work that way. And how any individual reframes it, while you may need support around it, it's going to be what works for you, what quiets the mind, what takes that negative thought and that left brain and just goes, oh, there's the answer. Shh. Right?
Yeah, but that's 3 steps. What's the 4th one? The 3rd
Well,
is reframe it, and then what's 4?
well, there's yes. Is it true? Is it really true?
Oh, is it really true? Is the second one?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
There's
And then
that's
doing it.
pardon?
The 5th step is actually doing it. So,
Yeah, no, it's very cool. There was a book that I read, and if I'm trying to remember, there were a couple books I read at the same time, and I may get this wrong, but I believe it was it doesn't even matter. It was some guy who turned his business around and made it like the #2 company in the country. And huge at the time. And he wrote a book. And one of the things that he had listed was a process in the back of the book that you can go through for any problem that you have. And the very first part of it is it real? The first
yeah,
question, it was this thing that you fill out, it was several pages. And the first one, is it real? And then how do you know it's real? Not just,
yes.
do you think it's real, but how do you, so you have to document, I know it's real because my bank account is empty. I know it's real because all I'm eating these days is peanut butter and jelly. And while I love it, constipation or whatever settling in, or, so you then, and then he goes on to say, who believes this, and
Right.
what would the solution be? Whose mind do you have to change to get the outcome that you want? And I love, because what you're doing is the same thing, because in more cases than not, the mind that we have to change is our own.
Of course. And it comes from a space of like when we think about who's, the left brain always talking, who's listening? And who is listening is your heart and your soul. And as you stated earlier on, we are so hard on ourselves. We have been taught and trained to beat ourselves up every single day. And,
I'm sorry, is that true?
it is true, but is it true? Does it have to be true? No.
There's a whole generation coming up who don't buy that, who's just like, yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm not going to hear that.
yeah.
It's one of the exciting things about the world is that so much of, how do we want to say this? Well, what were you going to say?
Well, when you said that, I thought of my oldest granddaughter who's going through, some of this with her dad, because she's pretty well, I don't know. I think she just knows who she is. And she wants to say no to who they want to, form her to be in the
Yeah.
moment.
And exactly. We have a generation now that I am so 1000% for, because these people are coming in and they are literally faced with extinction and other horrible things because of the people who have gone before them. So when the people who have gone before them say, you need to do it this way, the very first thing they say is, hold your horses. You messed up everything. So whatever you're presenting, that's probably not the right way to do it. And so, there's all this talk about it, but I think this is the first of 3 generational shifts that are going to change the face of the planet, literally. I know there's big shifts going on in everyone's DNA, and not just the new people being born. There's all kinds of very powerful shifts happening on the planet right now. And one of the ways to help that, because if you look at the news right now, it's crazy. It's like, why be here? Can I, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, can I go somewhere else, And but we don't have to. We've created peacemaker machines. Again, peaceandharmonyco.com. We have 3 different versions that are the size of a laptop, because we actually start with one of the brand new MacBook, either Air or MacBook Pros, and then we completely change them to be a broadcast tower of peace and harmony that dissolves stress and negativity. And there's 3 different versions. Excuse me, and it's on the homepage of Peace and Harmony CO. And there's a Peacemaker 10,000, which goes for, it affects 10,000 people or 10 square miles, whichever comes first. The Peacemaker 15,000, which is 15,000 people or 15 square miles, and the Peacemaker 30,000, which is 30,000 people or 30 square miles. Again, whichever comes first, and we can make custom ones. And here's the thing, these are quantum infused, unified field infused programs. We have technology now that can literally change things overnight. And I think a lot of the new generation coming in is aware that there are better solutions and better ways to do things. So what I love that you're presenting, Bethany, is here's a way for those of us who grew up with that, but also here's things that we can teach these new people coming up that can help them, which is don't even create, at 5, don't even create these habits in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And how to, well, even affect, with their friends, and how to change their friends' minds instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
Because
A friend,
peer pressure is so big.
Yeah. A friend of mine was in line one Saturday morning, so this was a while ago, where she was in line Saturday, post office. She was watching a friend of hers 5-year-old daughter. So they're in line, and the girl is trying to do somersaults, but she can't do them. So every time she does one, she goes, "Oh, too bad. Good try though," or "You'll get it next time." Or so she's doing this little evaluation of accepting that it wasn't quite what she wanted, but then immediately being her own, "But you'll get it, champion." And of course, everybody in line is completely amused. And this is what we want. The techniques that first technique we don't want to think, "Oh, we messed up," and
Right.
what we want to do is, "Well, that didn't work. Let me try something else."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so I've always been an out of the box girl. I think you and I have had those conversations before. In some ways, I'm very thankful to my mother, who raised me with in the box thinking, so I could sort of function in society for through my school years. But that taking the walls down, just like, why do we need a box at all? Let's get creative and take a look at who we are, and not just who our brain tells us, because the brain really, it's a hamster. If you've ever spent the night in a room with a hamster, I don't know if you've ever done that, and if it has a wheel, it spins all night long. And that's what goes on in the left brain. It just spins and spins and spins. We just want to go, shh, quiet. Let's garner who we are. Who were we meant to be? Why are we here? What is our role? What is our purpose? What is our passion? And let's live that.
There's this idea of the noise. There's a couple things. First of all, different types of meditation like TM and other types of meditation do help silence the mind. But I specifically remember one day, early 20s, late teens, walking down the street, and it was in the evening. And again, that noise was and I was just like, I just wanted to stop, just, get the noise to go away. Well, after that, I did learn all these techniques, but one of the techniques that we have people do sometimes is just send your mind to the beach for the afternoon. Just, okay, you can keep talking, but you know what? I'm just going to send you to the beach for the afternoon and not pay any attention and go do what I want to do. And you can get pretty good at that. Because then and you just, again, like you're talking about culture habits, where anytime when that thing starts churning and saying stuff, we just, no, you're at the beach. We're not listening to you. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you say.
Yeah. it's something that I love to say, particularly to people who are heady, people who are really up here a lot of the times, and they have trouble, connecting down here, that go to the beach is a great idea. It's also, remember when you were a teenager and you wanted to take a megaphone and yell at your parents? You don't want to yell at your mind, but you want to go to your heart and soul and let that be louder than your mind. So I'm sorry, I can't hear you. The waves are really noisy.
Yeah, but and I get that you want to be louder, but again, if we can, and what I like about your technique is because I have had those, and I'm sure a lot of people have had that frustrating experience where you just want to scream at your mind, just shut up, let me nuke that process, just get out of here, whatever it is. And I have been less than kind to myself on many occasions where I've just not knowing other ways
Yeah.
to shift things. You just start, the frustration of just having to hear the same thing over and over again that, again, may not be true. Again, you can change the story. There's so many things that you can do, just make a little shift. So I love this very gentle technique of, and repeat it again. We want to make sure everybody gets it. The first
So
thing is it
is it
true?
true? Is it
Okay.
really true? So those are two different answers because they won't necessarily be the same.
Okay. So let's use an example for someone. Someone says they're shy or they're afraid to speak up or they're afraid. A lot of people aren't even comfortable admitting that they have their own truth. They're not so in tune with themselves to recognize. They know that I don't necessarily agree with what's going on around me, but they're not connected enough. So maybe they say, I don't know what I think. What's a good example to use? Yeah. So I don't know what I think about that. Let's just start with that.
Okay. So I don't know what I think about that. Is it true? The first response might be, yeah, it's true. I don't know what I think about that. And it might be, no, it's not true. I do know what I think. Either way, it doesn't matter what the answer is. So there's never any judgment on the answer. And the next question, is it really true? So regardless of how you answered it the first time, you may answer it differently the second time.
Yeah. So I'm going to go into this example because I don't know what I think about this. Actually, is that true? I don't know if it's true. Is it really true? Well, I have a feeling. I wouldn't be, the question would not come up. I mean, it can be. I don't know what I think about that, and it doesn't matter. Yes, there was an M&M in the road, and we drove by it, and I don't know what I think about that, and it doesn't matter. But maybe it's something political or having to do with society or our children or some policy that's being propagated on us at work or something that our spouse or somebody is promoting to us, and we wanting to be agreeable tell ourselves, oh, I don't know what I think about that. I don't have an opinion about that because then I'm not making waves. But then, so we say, I don't know what I think about that. But then when we say, is it really true? We go, well, I don't completely see eye to eye with what's being presented. My view of it might be a little bit different.
Right.
Okay.
And often the second time we ask it, we move from here and we come down to here.
Okay. So we're video, but it's also a podcast.
We
So
move from our mind and to our heart. And our heart often, and not always, but our heart will often answer the second question. So if the question is I don't know what I think about that, the mind might immediately say, that's true. I don't know what I think about that. And then when you ask it again, it's like, well, I do, but maybe I don't want to say it, or maybe I don't want to make waves, or whatever the answer is, it might be a different answer. And then from there, who would I be without that thought?
I want to stay back with the second one for a little bit longer
Right, sure.
because, and I love this example of, I don't know what I think about that, because when we say, is it really true? Verbally, we may not know, but because we haven't bothered to explore it enough. But again, as you're saying, as we move from the heart, from the head to the heart, or to the feeling level, we may be very aware that we have some feelings about it, something that might be uncomfortable or something that might be an area that we can bring more love to the situation. But because of the situation, again, maybe not wanting to make waves, or maybe just we're not in the habit of speaking up, or we're not in the habit of acknowledging ourselves. We've been being ordered around for so long. We've given so much power away. And a technique to make sure you take back your power is just stand up and say, I take back any and all power I have knowingly or unknowingly given to anyone at any time. And just say that 2 or 3 times, and that really starts bringing your power back, because we've been giving our power back to commercials and to newscasters and to teachers. We've been giving our power to all of these people around us all the time. How do I decide what car to buy? I look in Consumer Reports. So now some people will just buy, there's Jerry Lewis movie from the 50s or 60s where he's moving away, and his neighbor, this older woman is his neighbor, and she's saying how much she's going to miss him because he's always been kind, that every time there was a commercial on TV, he would run and get her whatever it was. So, just this idea that if there was a commercial on, I have to buy it. And no, that's not the case. So one of the things we want to do is, again, is it really true? I don't know what I think about this. I don't know what my opinion is. Is it really true? We want to start waking up even those quiet feelings within that maybe we've never allowed ourselves to explore before. And this is a perfect opportunity, Bethany, that you're bringing up. Is it really true? Well, something's going on there. Let me see what it is.
Yeah.
Let me see what it is.
Yeah. I totally agree. And so it sounds like a simple process, and sometimes it is, and it can be quick, but other times, particularly when we're not overly connected to our emotions, which are in our body, right? All of our feelings are in our body. And when we connect to that, we're really good at stuffing it down. It's why many people emotionally eat, is they don't want to feel what they're feeling. And so in that process, just pausing long enough to feel and recognize and honor yourself for whatever it is you feel, regardless of what you've been told.
Yeah, and I love this very non-judgmental attitude on it, because who is passing judgment on us most of the time is us.
Right.
And we do it. Why? Why do we bother? Who knows? Where we learned that, or what? It doesn't matter. But here's the thing: you don't need to. There's a wonderful response that we tell people, that we were talking about the other day on that program that we have, the Mastering the 5 Rules of the New Age.
Which is fantastic.
That there's the responses that we have if we go to do something and the result that we get is not the result that we were shooting for, and it's not an accidental result that we love. We haven't invented flubber or a great super soap that makes millions and saves the day in somebody's way. But if it just doesn't go the way we want, and it doesn't go the way we want, that a wonderful response is simply oops, and then move on to the next thing, try it a different way or whatever. So yeah,
it's a beautiful, I loved when you spoke about that, and I've already used it with some clients, because we do judge ourselves. We judge ourselves all the time. And if we're judging ourselves, most likely we're also judging others, even when we're not aware. And energetically, that has a huge effect on our whole planet. So when we begin to learn how to reframe our thoughts away from judgment, moving to allowing and understanding and going, whoops, right? We're not perfect yet. And then from there, recognizing that someone else may be in a oops moment, and we don't know that. And it's not our job to judge them. Our job is to love ourselves enough, this is my opinion, but is to love ourselves enough so that we can love others when they're in that oops moment.
And here's the interesting thing that when you mentioned about judgment, Bethany, is we may be projecting that they're having an oops moment when in fact they're
Yeah.
actually having, one of their top 10 experiences of their lives. And we're going, yeah, that person's, we don't have any idea. Um, I watched a TED talk yesterday, and it was talking about, again, somebody who doesn't procrastinate, and his evaluation of people who do procrastinate. And it was very interesting, because the guy actually would get things done months ahead of time instead of procrastinators to wait for last minute. And then he discovered that the most creative people are people who procrastinate, but not extreme procrastinators. And then he started doing all this research, and then, so it's very interesting. So somebody's sitting there and going, well, he's lazy, he's not working. And I'm passing judgment that he's okay. And there are so many flavors to that. First of all,
Oh, there are.
so many layers of judgment. So what do you get first when you think about that? He's not working. He's lazy. He's not working. He's not accomplishing. What's your first immediate take on that?
Well, my first immediate take is because, when I'm like, before there was ever an iCloud or the cloud, I always used to joke way back when I was 15, maybe 14, that there's a Bethany cloud, because that's where I go when I'm sitting around and it appears as if I'm not doing anything. I am garnering a whole lot of information floating up in. So that was my first thought, is like, yeah, it's a beautiful place to be. And I know all about being judged for going there.
Yeah. So here's the thing that we look at. So the very first thing is, and I know this is a little bit controversial, but who said we have to be doing anything?
Yes. You actually may have been the first person to say that to me.
Because here's the interesting thing is that, is it true? Well, the thing is that in different states of consciousness, waking, dreaming, and sleeping, and then there's higher states of consciousness, what is true in one is not true in another. What is true as culturally appropriate in one country may be completely inappropriate in another country. So when we say, is it true, that the trueness of it is isolated by, is it appropriate in this time and place
Correct.
of where and who I am right now? Okay, so you have that scientific angle, the neuroscience angle, and then you have the intuition thing. But what if we look at it again? I work with unified field and quantum field, okay? So we look at, I have a body. Who am I? Okay, am I the body? Am I on the cellular level? Who's thinking? When you go to the Bethany cloud, where is that cloud in relation to who I am? And as we keep refining and refining, the bottom line of everything is we're just fluctuations of the unified field fluctuating within itself of unbounded awareness. And who creates the rules, who creates, how the whole judgment. So, Buckminster Fuller in the 70s said that we had to let go of the paradigm that everybody had to work, because at that point in time and what the technology was, he felt that only 1 in 10,000 people needed to work. In the 90s, Neil Donald Walsh came out with Conversations with God, and in one of the first 3 volumes, and I don't remember which one, God says that the productivity level on the planet now is such that only 1 in 100,000 people needs to work for there to be enough clothes and food and shelter and everything that we could want. And the truth is that it's actually these days the number's not much different from that, but it's a little bit. So here's the thing, who says you need to be doing something? What's the purpose of your life? So when we look at somebody and we say he's not doing anything, and we're passing judgment on that, the first thing we need to recognize is, well, who said
Yeah.
you have to be doing something?
Yeah. And most likely he's breathing. So that might be just good enough right there.
And there's a thing that said, so here's somebody who doesn't do anything his whole life, and then when he's 80, just before he dies, he writes a poem that inspires millions of people for the next 150 years.
Yeah, it is never, I believe, it is never ever for us to judge what someone is or isn't doing, what they are or aren't thinking. And even when that's difficult, because sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes there are things that come up with people that, we may be close to. Often, your partner can be, moments where that isn't always easy you want to judge their thought because you want their thought to be yours. But in reality, as we release that and we just allow that cellular flow, we are all connected to our, the Bethany cloud, the quantum, right? That we're, and as we allow ourselves to go there and grow there, we'll come back and we may have the same thought, and we could do this simple process, and sometimes not so simple, and the answers will be different because we're different. I would hope that over the years our answers change, or what we once thought is so far away that we would never even think it again.
One of the exciting things is to cultivate, I'm going to say it the simplest way, to cultivate not caring, which is a simple way to not judge. And I'm not saying don't be compassionate, but let's face it, I believe that more than 100% of people, when they're driving, pass judgment on other drivers.
Yes, it's a great place to practice.
Yeah, and we think, this person, when we were traveling in the 80s, and I was working with this really top executive in the TM organization one time, and this was an older woman who had her husband had been a colonel in the military, so she was used to having a very particular, in the military, the spouse of the officer gets the same status as the officer. So she's, even when you're with just the wives, you all have that ranking structure. And I guess that's appropriate in the military. I don't know anything about that, but good for them. But anyway, we're driving along, and she's so used to getting things done. And I guess she was a little tired, and she had been doing phenomenal work for quite some time. So I'm not surprised, but we were driving into Chicago, and I don't know if you know, on the interstate into Chicago, seemed like it was 6 lanes going in each direction, 5 or 6. And we're in the middle one, and it's traffic everywhere, and somebody pulls in front of us. Now we're going 75 or 80 or whatever was the traffic was. We were definitely keeping up with the traffic and legal, so maybe it was 65, whatever it was back then.
Probably 75, actually.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And so we're going the speed and doing fine, and somebody pulled in front of us, and she did this. She passed judgment, but she said, now we're farther behind. Now we won't get there because somebody's going to beat us there. And I remember, and she was tired, and we knew it, and we were just like, okay, it's fine, we're not going to go there. But I remember thinking, we don't even know where he's going. He's probably not going to the hotel that we're going to. He's probably not pulling into the only parking place in front, so that we're, just the relationship of all this. But yet she had that thought, and we do all the time. Somebody gets in front of us, and we may be going exactly as fast as we want to go. Or how about this one? We're in a hurry, and somebody gets in front of us, and they put their car in turtle mode.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think that's when that happens to me, which it does often, it's a good message. And how I've learned to turn that around, it usually means, okay, you need to be mindful. You are going to get there, and maybe you're going to be late. So what? Right? Maybe you're supposed to be late. And maybe that car that pulled in front of you and is going in turtle mode is getting you to pause and be more mindful instead of thinking way ahead in front of, instead of being right where you are in the moment.
There's Christian Michelson, our friend, when he was giving a lecture, talked about how he likes to drive fast, and the car that he had, and one day somebody got really slow in front of him. He was getting all bent out of shape about it, and then they passed a police car, and he realized that if the guy hadn't gotten in front of him, he would have gotten a ticket. Same thing for, there were a lot of, on 9/11, there were, in New York, there were a lot of people who were late for work that day.
I know,
And
I know one of them.
yeah, and all of these people, and that they were freaking out, trying to get to work, trying to hurry, get to work. Why am I being blocked? Who is this? What's happening with traffic? I got to get to work. I got to get to work. I got to get to work. And unquestionably beating themselves up. I'm not going to be there on time. Something bad's going to, I'm not good. I'm not a good person. I'm late, blah, blah, blah. And yet being late literally saved their lives. So, and why I want to spend a little time with this, and I'm grateful that you're willing to, Bethany, is just is whatever is being presented, how can we turn it around? Which is the next point of your technique. Is it really true? How can we recast this experience or our interpretation of it in a way that supports us and serves who we want to be?
Yeah, well, in reference to the car example, a really good first step in, how can I reframe it and who would I be without that thought is just recognizing or thinking, have I ever cut anybody off? Have I ever, hurried up in front of someone and then slowed down? Right? Like most of us have done that. And most of us have done that for A, we may not have even realized it. B, there might have been something really big, traumatic going on in our lives, and we were in a hurry to, get to the hospital or to whatever it might be. So first of all, looking at ourselves and recognizing that we too have done such a thing. And are we a bad person because of that? No. No, for whatever reason it happened, it's oops. And so allowing that oops for them, or maybe it wasn't an oops, maybe it's very intentional. They're getting in front of you because they have, for whatever reason, as we let go and just give permission for others to be who they are, then that space gets created for love to fill.
Which
And
I think is perfect.
Yeah, we start loving that person and we love ourselves. We go, well, maybe I'm going to be late, or maybe I'm going to use the quantum field and I'm not going to be late no matter how many people come in front of me. Right?
There's a thing, it's arriving at the perfect time, 8:22, whatever it is, or is arriving at the perfect time. One of my good friends, when I was living in Santa Monica, he would go to the Dodger games, and I don't know how he did it, some superpower or something. Everybody else would go, we're leaving now. We want to get our good seats and everything. And he goes, yeah, I'm not leaving yet. And he would always arrive, park, walk in, walk up to a seat, sit down, and within 90 seconds, the game would start. And I saw him do this several times. And he was like, I don't want to I'm not interested in sitting in the hot sun I just want to watch the game. So why do I want to get there early? And so he just managed to manifest that ability to get there.
He created the space for himself partly, I think, because there was no worry or stress around it.
Yeah. And I think but again, the idea is he never worried about to get there at 8 o'clock. He just wanted to get there at the perfect time for him. So
Right.
what's the perfect time? I want to move on. I think we've done a good job covering this. And if people have questions, we're going to give them ways to get in touch with you, which is you have, and there'll be links in the show notes, but BethanyPerry.com and WholeLifeHealingCoach.com. Either or will get people to you. I think you were thinking there's something you want to give people to give something to.
There is. I have a gift. It's because a lot of times we're in a place of fear, or we move into a state of fear for whatever reason. And where there is love, there, again, I believe when we move to a state of love, fear dissipates. And I created a meditation that is releasing fear so that we can move to love. And it's BethanyPerry.com/release-fear.
Good. So thank you for that. So and again, and I want to cut this short because I want to cover other points, but this idea of just these four things, I'm thinking something, is it
Is it true?
is it true? Is it really true?
Who would I be without that thought?
And then recast it.
How do I reframe it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Recast is a great word too.
Yeah, and again, one of the this idea about the traffic is just as we can stop judging ourselves by going, oops, we can stop judging others by going, so what? Or who cares? Somebody cut me off in traffic. Somebody went through the light. Somebody blocked me from going through the light, whatever it is. Instead of bothering to just like, yeah, so what? What do I want to do now? What do I want to do in the moment? And just stop the whole the
And
noise.
who do I want? Yeah, and who do I want to be? So when we think about who we want to be, I would imagine most of us don't want to be an angry jerk in a car, driving on the road. So leave that lower energy behind and
When we evaluate and when we go into in other places where we talk about the whole process of creation, and and people who listen to the show a lot have probably heard this before, but I love saying it, is that we got to. I work with Divine Mother, highest level. I had some experiences way back when, after my whole life. There's stories about, there's books, there's whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get, but some friends of mine and I were sitting at dinner one time in my apartment, and what I was told was, and I had known that the purpose of creation was expansion of happiness. That was something that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who made me a TM teacher back in the 70s, had said quite a lot, and in some of his works and stuff. So I'd been very familiar with purpose of creation is expansion of happiness. But this one evening, Divine Mother just said, she said, unbounded awareness, which is also the unified field of all the laws of nature, which we talk about here. She said it has it because everything comes from it, but nothing actually exists within it, because it's actually a place that's completely unmanifest and there's no differentiation in it. It's just this field of energy, of unlimited energy, unlimited intelligence, whatever, all the qualities exist but not expressed within it. And she said, so this field hears a rumor within itself that it has all possibilities within it, and it goes, cool, what does that look like? So then creation comes out. There's some other things that happen in between, but creation comes out, and World War II comes out. And unboundedness just says, cool, what else can I do? And then a glorious time, heaven on earth, comes out. And unbounded awareness, again, no judgment, just says, cool, what else can I do? It's always, what else can I do? So when we think about what our deepest and most significant role is as a being, whatever type of being, it's simply to experience. And to experience, to enjoy all of this being presented. So the bottom line in any given moment is we have two choices that we are either consciously or unconsciously making. And when we go to make them, it makes all the difference in the world. And the choices are, who do I want to be in this moment, in this situation, and what do I want to experience? And no judgment is passed on your determination. So you can decide that I want to yell at my parents. And that's who I want to be in this moment. I want to express my independence. I want to express my frustration. I want them, maybe it's like, okay, I want to hit them with a toothpick because they did something to me at one point. I don't want to hurt them really bad, but I just want to get them a little sting, And, or maybe what I want to do, and I use this a lot, I watched the James Stewart movie Harvey when I was a kid, and I had no concept of liquor. I didn't know anything about it. So I didn't understand that there's a connotation about the man that everyone else may have imposed, but I didn't see it. I just saw him as an incredible, this incredibly sweet man. And there's some particular scenes that you can go on YouTube or watch the movie, but it's a man who at one point he's talking to somebody and he says, when I was young, my mother used to say to me, and she, Elwood, which was his name, Elwood, in this world, you have to be either oh so smart or oh so pleasant. And he said, I spent the first 35 years of my life being smart. I recommend pleasant. And it's just this very sweet, the way that he describes certain things. And it's just that you can just tell that in that moment, that expression, those words that he's saying are giving him such delight. And at one point he actually says a phrase again. He says, oh, that's a lovely phrase. If with your permission, I'll say it again. And then he says it as the evening wore on. And it's just purely delightful. So, and then there's everything in between. So in this moment, because we all have things that we define as good things or bad things, that we have things that we define as good or bad that happens in our life, but we pass that judgment. So instead of just passing a judgment, we can add that layer of, okay, well, who do I want to be in this circumstance? And what do I want to experience? So the oops that we give other people is, so what? You did that. That has nothing to do with me. Now that this is what the current moment is presenting to me, who do I want to be? What do I want to experience? Ooh, I want to get, my sister used to have the best time ever swearing at other drivers. She thought it was her job when she learned to drive, and she really got into it, and years later she was like, well, that was a waste, but she loved doing it, So, okay. Solution 2, lies. We want to talk about lies because we actually have a piece of art which is called Lies into Truth. In mythology, if there's a griffin around, which is a winged lion beast, you can't speak untruth in the presence of a griffin. So one of those pieces of art that we created was actually Lies into Truth. It would disallow untruths to be spoken. But again, truth changes in different states of consciousness. So you have a technique that you learned that blends with your work. You want to go into what that is? This is solution number 2 for today.
Sure. And this is a solution that takes a little bit longer. And I actually learned it from Lisa Phillips, who I absolutely love. But because again, taking even what we were speaking about before, we often lie to ourselves. And the things that are really deep-seated that we just can't seem to change, we don't know what to do with. We say it over and over, and we heard it most likely over and over. Particularly for those of you who are listening that are journalers, get out your journal, get a pencil, start listening to what those lies are, or the things that you know are lies, you just don't know how to not feel judged by what you've been told. And write them down and leave space. And every day for 3 or 4 days, look at them. Once you've written as many as you want, spend 3 or 4 days reading them and just noticing them, feeling them, being separate from them, noticing them on the paper, noticing what they are. And then after 3 or 4 days, sitting down and taking a pen and writing down what the truth is. What is really the truth? So as a really great example, I was told that I was squirrel, I was emotional, I was really beat up as a young girl for being emotional. And I thought it was a bad thing. And I felt incredibly judged for my emotions. So I might, I'm being emotional is bad. I need to change that. That might be a lie. Being emotional is a bad. And yet the truth is it's a gift, because I feel, I'm empathic. I feel other people's feelings. So that giftedness creates a space not only for myself, but it creates a space for others. That might be what I write down in red or blue or purple, or whatever your favorite color is, ink, and then spend time with it. You want to spend time. It's not a quick. And then as you spend time with those answers, writing them, once you have the answers, and maybe you only have answers to 2 or 3, and the rest are waiting because you're not ready to answer them yet. Spend 3 or 4 days looking at the lie and looking at the truth. And when you deep in your soul go, oh, I get it. This is really the truth. The truth is, sure, I'm emotional, but it's such a beautiful gift. It's not a horrible thing. Then you erase the lie and you live with the truth. And it allows you to that flowing freely of who you really truly are, to help you become that be, capital B, capital E, come who you are meant to be, instead of being held back by things that were said to you that aren't serving you.
And I love this thank you for that. I love this idea of not serving you, because when we think about, well, what are lies? Because we don't sit down and say, okay, what are the lies about myself?
Right.
A good introduction is, what do I think about myself that causes me pain? What am I thinking about myself that I habitually think about, but really, if I take a moment, it no longer serves me. And those are the things that I think, whether we call them lies or not, these are the things that I think this technique is very handy for. And just, there are other clearings of, let's get rid of anything that I believe that no longer serves me. And you can just say, let me make a list. Use the same thing that you're talking about. Let me make a list of, or, and there's other clearings, there's things to do. But once you realize that, then we can move forward. And this idea of who I'm meant to be, who you're meant to be is all that you want to be without restrictions.
Yes.
Just this idea of the Bethany cloud, that without restrictions, and the restrictions may have been learned, and they may have been learned a misinterpretation of something that was presented as a kid. Again, well, we'll skip that story, but again, kids don't always understand what's going on, and some adult may say something and they learn some life lesson that is wrong and baseless and doesn't serve them. It was just their interpretation based on their understanding. So when we think about who we're meant to be, we're meant to be the best of everything that we want to be without limitations. And the limitations are lies. The limitations are lies. So let's start clearing those,
I can't agree more. It's a very simple idea of this is, when I work with the coaches, when I'm teaching coaches to be coaches, we'll be in a circle group, or if it's now 100% online, but having them speak one thing to someone. If I say one thing, maybe, having raised 5 children made this very clear. When you have 20 people in front of you, you say something, one statement, and you ask everyone to write down what their perception of that statement is, it is unlikely that there will be 2 or 3 that are even the same,
Yeah.
depending on what it is you're saying, obviously. But so that even knowing that, it's like, wow, like how awesome is that we can expand our perceptions. We can expand instead of contract and say, well, I'm right. My perception is right. Well, of course your perception is right. So is theirs. So how can we join these perceptions and make it a big, beautiful, bright, you know, planet that exceeds the sun with its brightness, versus drawing in and being afraid because someone thinks differently or you think differently.
One of the interesting things is that learning the boundaries allows us to function in the boundaries, but so we need to learn them, but then we need to forget them. So, anybody who is an artist of any type, a musician or a writer or a painter or anything like that, they all go through the process of learning all the rules. And then the most creative basically let go of the rules. So you look at Picasso and you look at his early work when he's a teenager, and it's gorgeous. It's this beautiful, right up there with, Da Vinci and Michelangelo. I mean, just really great art. And then having mastered that, he went and became world famous, breaking those boundaries, not only just in terms of artistic skills, but also breaking the boundary of time and space.
Right.
So and so we find that with music too. The people who, yes, there's somebody who can make a hit that is follows the formula and it becomes, a #1 seller around the world, but then someone else can take a song and completely break the boundaries of them. I know I heard an interview once, and I can't remember who it was, but it was, really top level musicians. And this is, I'm from music from the 60s and 70s. So Roy Orbison, it was Bob Dylan actually, who said, when a new Roy Orbison song came on, all these great writers, they'd all stop and listen, because most rock songs followed this, A, B, C, whatever formula. And Roy Orbison would just do one verse for the whole song, never come back and he would do all these different boundary breaking things, which influenced all of them. So it's just, and Bob Dylan did different, some of the greatest writers that stood out, again, and I'm just, dating myself, I'm sure that's happening currently too, are the ones who know the rules and then ignore the rules, and it's all integrated inside this idea of what you're saying is, how can we make it work for all of us? Yeah, so that's very cool. Very cool. I want to get to solution 3, how to move from fear to love. And I know you offered that meditation that they can get from you. And
I think that when we're in a state of fear, first and foremost, we have to recognize that we're there. And a lot of times we might say, no, I'm this, or no, I'm that. And we recognize the feeling of fear, and we might turn it into anger, or we might turn it into anxiety, or we might turn it into it's his fault or her fault, instead of just pausing and saying, you know what, I'm scared, I'm afraid. And that's that honest place of going, okay, so now I'm afraid. Now I'm really afraid, because I'm stating that I'm afraid. Now what do I do? Right? And this, I'm a very visual person, and the meditation is about visualizing how at any time in our lives we can discover a state of love and change our state of being and remove the state of fear. We don't need that. It doesn't serve, fear does not serve us unless we're running from a tiger. And even then, we know what to do. So do we need to be afraid, or we just need to do it? Right. But the meditation is having you visualize the state where you are in fear and discovering a state that you can be in and exist in and experience love throughout every cell in your body and actually even around you.
Cool. So we'll have everybody can look forward to that. There's an interesting thing that you just said. There aren't enough tigers to go around for us to chase all of us. So I don't know what to say about that. But and
that's the
whole,
neuroscientist in me.
You know, I think I mentioned earlier about DNA changing for everyone on the planet. And one of the things is the fight or flight response itself no longer serves humanity because that's never appropriate anymore, ever. And so that whole thing is being shifted out. But here's what's interesting, and I love what you talk about changing from love to fear. And I also, just in terms of what we've already talked about, the first thing when we're in fear is it real? Is it true?
Yeah.
Is, you know, there's again, from Maharishi, the solution to the problem is there is no problem. So what response, when someone cuts us off in traffic, we don't need the fight or flight response. We don't need to,
Correct.
When we look at what we're afraid of, am I really in danger? What's going on here? Is this, so we can look back and say, I'm afraid. So the first thing is this true? Well, I feel uncomfortable. Maybe it's indigestion. I don't know, maybe it is fear. Maybe it's terror, Again, Christian Michelson, all fears are fears of feeling.
Yes.
But we turn that around and we say, but everything that you want because of how it will make you feel. All of the goals that anyone has is to make them feel a particular way. Well, if you can get that feeling first, do you really need, then you get to start to work with things. Yeah. But so it's very interesting about turning things around. Simon Sinek, I watched a talk that he did where he talked about, he spent about 6 months, and over the 6 months he watched a lot of interviews with sports people, and before or after the game. And the interviewer always go, were you nervous? And he noticed over 6 months that no one ever said yes. All of these professional athletes would always go, no, I was excited. No, I was excited. And he realized after about 6 months, a very smart man, Simon Sinek, and he said, they didn't say they were nervous. They said they were excited. And he didn't say it this way, but basically it's a different interpretation. So
physiologically it's similar.
Yeah. So he said he was on a plane and the plane went into really extreme turbulence and everybody around him was freaking out. And he decided to put this theory to the test. And he, instead of going, oh my God, I'm terrified, he said, isn't this exciting?
Yeah.
And seriously, people pay lots of money to go to theme parks, to go to amusement parks, to go on rides that give them this similar experience. And as soon as he said, isn't this exciting? He said he watched everyone right around him completely change how they were responding to the situation. Yeah. So when we look at, how to turn fear to love, one of the first things is, again, who do I want to be? What do I want to experience? What's being presented right now? And we talked about this the other day. There's a large percentage of people who are ill or in unkind, unpleasant situations in the world who don't want to get out of it because who they want to be is somebody who gets a lot of sympathy, and what they want to experience is that sympathy, is that compassion, is that whatever. And that's not a bad thing. We're not passing judgment on it either. There's all kinds of stories about, homeless drug addicts who are actually, this is their R&R time from something that they had done in the angelic wars or something, and this is basically go take a lifetime off and chill and don't do anything. And yeah, we would look at them and say, oh, why aren't you working? But again, okay.
Maybe they are, right?
Or maybe this is their R&R time. And again, this idea of, going to the Bethany cloud, or this the TED talk that I talked about, of where the procrastinators, basically, they were more creative. They came up with, and they did many studies on this. The people who didn't jump and deal with it right away had better, more creative solutions than the people who did jump right away. But then the people who waited until the very last second, it dropped back down again. They weren't creative either, because they're panicking at the end. And so, there's that.
I've not heard I mean, I knew some of what you spoke, but I'm a procrastinator, not enough time, but I am a procrastinator. And I often have never thought that that's the word I would put to it. It's a word my dad used to give me. And he meant it in all love, but it's really because I was thinking, I was processing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me thinking, it was me connecting to higher thought. And when I was young in particular, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that that's what I was doing.
Exactly. And I thought it was interesting that the gentleman in the talk used the term procrastinator, because like you, I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm not procrastinating.
I may be sitting under a tree in a field, and from your outside perspective, I'm just watching butterflies and drooling, but I'm, something is going on. There's actually a technique that I read or heard in some seminar long ago. I want to think it was, I don't honestly remember who it was. I read so many books in the 80s and everything, but the technique was, give your problem to God, that before you go to bed, say, this is my problem, please work on it all night. And then when I wake up in the morning, you get the solution. Hopefully the solution is there. We all know the phrase eureka, but do you know where that came from?
No.
So they're Pythagoras. So he was a mathematician in Greece, and somebody gave the king a really elaborately designed crown, and the king wanted to know how much gold was in it. And so he went to Pythagoras and said, tell me how much gold was in this, I need to know. And Pythagoras was trying to do, basically on the level of geometry and volume, trying to figure out the mathematical formula to figure out how much gold was in this crown. And he was going nuts. And finally one day he's just like, put it aside. And he went to take a bath. And as soon as he got in the tub, some of the water splashed out. And he realized that that's how you would figure out what it was, that you could take a known volume, a container with a known volume, put the crown in, whatever splashed out was how much, was what the crown was. But he was so excited about it that he jumped out of the tub and ran naked in the street, into the street, screaming, Eureka, Eureka. And so many people will say that, they solved the problem when they stopped thinking of the problem, when they let it go. So I agree with you. I don't think procrastination is an accurate description of it. But again, it's an outside observer not seeing what's going on within you, and then deciding that they need to name it and then pass judgment on it. But there's some very successful, I can't remember who it was, businessman who said, when I want something done, I give it to a lazy person, because they're going to find the most efficient, effective way to get it done the quickest, because they don't want to work. So they're going, how can I get this done quick and go back to my whatever it is that I'm doing? So
watching butterflies and drilling.
yeah, so which is, fun if you're drilling in the right place. But anyway, the potential for the world, as I'm sure you know, is so much more loving and so much kinder and so much sweeter. You know, I was thinking about this the other day, that the last part of high school for me and the first part of college was a fabulous time in my life. I everything worked out for me. I was in love, and listening to, my job was working in a record store, playing all my favorite music all the time, and flirting with whoever came in, and and I lived in a great situation, and no one was giving me grief, and I didn't have any big problems in life, and it was a wonderful way to be. And then I learned, you know, oh, now I have to go and get a job, and there are all these expectations of society. And again, was I procrastinating, or was I doing what I was supposed to do, or whatever? And I just remember thinking that if the conditions of that life, that worry-free life, hadn't ended because I learned that I had to have I moved into a part of my life where society said, you now have to do this. That would be an amazing life. And that's a life that everyone on earth can have. Because we have countries now like Bhutan who now evaluates the effectiveness of their government by gross national happiness. How many people in the country are happy at a high level of happiness? And if they are, then the government feels they're doing well. And if they're not, they need to fix that. And they have all these rules, or they've been completely organic for, I can't remember how long, or maybe they're about to, maybe they are by now or something. Something like 80 some odd % of the land has been declared that they will never be cultivated. It will always be natural and forest and all this. But there's all these things. So it's just really interesting. We get to create the world we want more intelligently and more and collectively, but much more than we realize. And this idea of taking back our power, and this idea of the solutions that you offer, how do we create a world within ourselves? How do we all have that Bethany cloud, or the Bob cloud, or the Peter cloud, or the Mary cloud? How do we all have that, not just as a cloud, but how do we dwell in that 24/7? And I think a lot of the techniques and a lot of things that we've talked about, and of course, you know, give a plug for Peace and Harmony company.
Absolutely.
You know, this is all about creating that life for every man, woman, and child on earth. You know, one of the things that that came up recently was, there is no problem that is solved by killing someone. There is no problem that is solved by killing someone. And the fact that, but we live in this world. So what needs to be done for people to recognize that that's going to come back and bite you in the ass if you do that?
Right. Understanding.
I'm wondering if I should say this one thing, because I live a very esoteric life, as you well know.
I do know. I love your esoteric life, so feel free to say it on my behalf.
So there are different levels of creation, and at different levels of creation, there are different, how do we want to say, it's a hierarchical structure. And so there are a lot of people, and just as we talked about, is it true? So on one level, we can look at what's going on health-wise with coronavirus, or we can look at what's going on with this law or that law, or politically or anything. And we can, and people often say, oh, that's because of X. But whatever they say, it's because of X. So I have a headache. I don't have a headache, but someone says, I have a headache. Oh, it's because I drank too much last night. But on the cellular level, or on the level of the liver, or on the level of the nervous system, it's going, well, I'm generating this particular symptom because chemically this imbalance is here. Okay, so they're both true on their own level, but but it's just what level you're looking at. So I had a friend that I got to go to a meeting that existed on a higher plane, where the souls of a lot of the major business players of this planet were called to this meeting by the divine to address what was going on in the world. And they had been addressed a number of times saying, you have the resources and the wealth, including some of the wealthiest people, if not most of the wealthiest people on the planet. You have the resources right now, and the solutions are there that you can eliminate every single problem. You can eliminate 97% of the problems on the planet within a very quick time, 2 to 3 years. You can eliminate poverty. You can eliminate starvation. You can eliminate water, people not having access to water. All of this is available. You can eliminate pollution. You can clean up the atmosphere and all of this. And so for several previous times over more than a decade, they'd been saying, you guys really should do this. Wouldn't it be great if you do this? Wouldn't this be a better legacy than just leaving more money than 1,000 generations of your family could ever spend? Wouldn't this be, on and on and on? And then finally at this one meeting, the divine just came down on these beings so solid, so hard. They say, just in anger, and just said, every single, that you, talking to each of these people, again at the soul level, that you will personally experience the pain of everything that happened because of your policies. So every kid that starves to death, every family that's torn apart through war because you want to make profits because of oil, and it just went through all of the people that die or have whatever this physical discomfort for however long they have it, because you put chemicals in the water, in the whatever it is, and just started illuminating, just saying this and this. And they said, if you don't change this now, you will experience all of this for millions of years to come. You will experience every single one, every single bullet that hurt somebody, every single broken arm, and just really emphatically said this to these beings. And that was several years ago. And I think some have changed, but it's still, it's just interesting. But we talk about what is real and what isn't. And I'm not sure why that came up, but it came up. And so there's that. So, when we talk about who we want to be and what we want to experience, we have way more control about what our responses are. Do I want to yell now, or do I want to laugh? Do I want to, do I want to say, oops? And do I want to say, for that other person who cut me off, I don't even need to think about it. I can take that side of the brain that's doing all that and say, thank you. And we do it lovingly. Thank you so much. You've worked so hard for me for so long, whether it be the intellect or the ego or just the mind going on, or whether it's the left brain or the left elbow or whatever it is. Thank you so much. You've been so helpful to me for so long. You deserve a day off. You deserve a week off. And just go to the beach. And if you call to check up on me, I'm just going to say, no, don't. Just take time for yourself. And we just lovingly allow ourselves to grow in a way that moves us in greater fullness and greater attunement to whatever aspect of the divine warms us, to wholeness of life, to joy, and to learn to share that with those around us, and then those around us, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then we have an amazing planet. And it's doable. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's just a matter of how quick. So,
well, I hope it's sooner rather than later, but that's just my own, again, not only have I always believed it, you have taught me a great deal. So all the work that you do, David, and particularly the work that you're doing through Peace and Harmony, I highly recommend to anyone, because it's not only transformed me and my life, it's transformed what I do in my work as well.
Well, thank you for saying that. So let's wrap up. Anything else that I didn't ask you or that you wanted to bring out to people? Did you have a eureka moment before or in the shower or last night or during the call where you said, oh, by the way, it turns out that if you go to these latitude and longitude, there's unlimited gold and diamonds. So anything that's...
Actually,
Love.
I did sort of have a eureka moment this morning. I'll say it quickly because I'm always trying to, think of what's the best way to present what I've been, entrusted with. And really love is it for me. I want to love everyone. I want the world to know and experience love in a way that perhaps they have or perhaps they never have, so that they can just, that freedom that comes with that, of being who they are being. And in that, I was thinking about my coaching course, and I train coaches, and I bring in a lot of professional speakers who are amazing. And yet I was thinking about this morning, like a lot of the things that I offer there in that course, if somebody doesn't want to be a coach, maybe I need to tweak this course so that it's a being course, or a course on, self love, self healing. I don't know. I don't
Love
have the words
yourself
yet.
and love the world.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so look for that, because it'll be coming.
Okay. Bethany, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Um,
Yeah.
let's see what happens with your relationship with your granddaughter,
Yeah.
because have you realized yet what that relationship is meant to be?
Um, well, no, except that just in this conversation today, I've thought, well, I'm just going to look at this as I'm taking a vacation. And if the beaches are open, I'm going to go to the beach. And I'm definitely going fishing with my son. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be whatever it is. I don't need to control it. I just want to know her. So you'll have to, I don't know.
Instead of wanting to know her, just watch her.
Well, yeah.
Let her be. Let her be an independent flower in the garden, and let you be a flower in the garden, and just enjoy watching that one bloom. And
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. And because you're bringing this up, I'm assuming that that's not happening. But somewhere
No,
in,
it is happening. That's
yeah,
why we're
'cause
bringing it up.
okay, because that's all I want with any of my grandchildren that's the best part about being a grandparent, is you don't have those parameters that you were taught that you needed to put on your children. They're all gone. You just get to
Have fun
sit.
with them.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
sit and let them be and enjoy it.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you this one thing,
Okay.
and which is, how do I? You taught her all the lessons in a previous life, and now she wants to show you that she learned them. But if you interact with her and try to tell her stuff now, she's going to be annoyed because she wants to show you that she learned it.
Okay. That's, I've been thinking about what you said. I'm like, what am I thinking that she's gonna, because I rarely tell my grandkids what to do, except maybe chew with your mouth closed, because it annoys me. It's the only thing I can think of. But she's a baby, like she's little. So I will allow for, I mean, I would allow for it
Yeah.
anyway, but I want that experience.
Just sometimes there's just watch from a distance and help from a distance, and that's the relationship this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it is anyway because of the distance.
Yeah. So just allow and send love, and no strain about it, and just know watching to discover. It'll be interesting to see how she unfolds, but whatever she does is whatever she does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Thank you for that. Helps clarify, and it will actually make it. It took some worry away, and I'll enjoy that experience.
Yeah, I'm here when you want me, and in the meantime, I can't. Just enjoy.
Yeah, I send her that all the time. Just so you know, I'm here. I love you. Sending you love today. It'd be interesting to see who she's becoming already.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to wrap up. We're going to end another episode of Here We Come to Save the Day. This one is all about, the bottom line of today's episode is all about allowing yourself to love yourself, to be yourself, to stop the eternal struggle within yourself to be something that is not who you really want to be. Bethany Perry has given us some great tools and techniques, and you can get some cool things at her website, which one do you want to use? The BethanyPerry.com,
Yeah.
BethanyPerry.com, and also Whole Life Healing Coach, one word, Whole, WHOLELIFEHEALINGCOACH.com, WholeLifeHealingCoach.com. And she's got some freebies there. Will there be a link on the homepage to go to it, or they need to have the slash?
I can have my website's being rebuilt right now, so I can have her put it right on the front.
Just put a free thing or a pop-up window or something so people can get that. And tell them one more time what you want to give them.
It's a meditation, releasing fear and receiving love.
Yeah. And so thank you all for listening today. We also covered a bunch of other interesting stuff. And again, check out Peace and Harmony CO, peaceandharmonycompany.com. Get yourself one of the Peacemaker systems, because you can contribute to your own peace. It's an action. It's an act that you can do that will literally help create heaven on earth, literally help create peace in your neighborhood, reduce crime, reduce tension. These systems have done everything from stopped the people in the apartment upstairs from stomping around without ever addressing them, to people feeling this bubble of peace and comfort as they approach their apartment building, to reducing crime in the neighborhood, and all the way up to averting forest fires, tornadoes, and hurricanes, and everything in between. People feeling like they have, for those who meditate, that they have the best meditations ever when they do it around these systems. All kinds of exciting results, and just feeling calmer and safer and more at peace. Really encourage you to get them, and they're on sale right now at peaceandharmonyco.com. So go there and check it out, and we'll catch you next time on Here We Come to Save the Day. Bethany, thank you so much, and thank you for listening. Subscribe, share it with your friends, and put a comment about how much you love, or even questions about what you'd like us to cover. Let us know. Reach us at peaceandharmonyco.com. David at peaceandharmonyco.com if you want to email. Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to another helpful, fun, and life-changing episode of Here We Come to Save the Day with David Adelson. To access the show notes and additional resources, go to herewecometosavetheday.com. If you've enjoyed the show and find it helpful and fun, please leave us a review and share with a friend. Tell us issues troubling you or questions you have. We're here to help you. That's what Here We Come to Save the Day is all about. Till next time.